I've been excited about this for a while, and so I'm so pleased to be a part of this, but also to have such a great friend. So our keynote address today is Dr. Kevin Roberts. He is the president of Heritage Foundation. He's no stranger to Texas. He lived in Texas for quite a while. As a matter of fact, he got his PhD from the University of Texas in American history. And so for my Longhorn friends out there, don't get distracted when the game comes on at 2:30, okay? But we're glad to have him back. For many years, he led the Texas Public Policy Foundation, which were our neighbors across the street. But he now leads Heritage Foundation in Washington, D.C. But Kevin's got a tremendous amount of experience and history, if you will, in the education system, but certainly has a heart and a personal faith and a public faith for so many of the issues that we work on. And if you know anything about Heritage, it is a nonpartisan research institute, but it is, I think, the largest conservative-based and educational think tank base of its type, not only in the country, but probably the world. And if, you know, my friends know what they say at the University of Texas, what starts here changes the world. So please welcome Dr. Kevin Roberts. Well, this is kind of a reunion for me too, right? Kevin and I spent a lot of good time together over the years, but we were in church together for a while, and I miss seeing you there.
We miss seeing you there too. And by the way, yeah, I think it's on. By the way, it's so great to be home for a couple of days in Texas. We got to go back to the Imperial City tonight. That would be D.C., but it's good to be sitting with you. And I just want to say, not that I would forget this, how about a round of applause for this great leader?
Well, and, speaking of leaders, and, Kevin and I would spend time together. We'd have lunch every now and then because I saw him as certainly a leader several steps in front of me and somebody that I could learn from, and so I've appreciated that, but I've missed seeing you. I'm glad you wore the boots, okay? We do, if you didn't get your breakfast tacos out there, and so you missed some of those in Texas, we're always happy to make you feel welcome, and we'd love to have you back anytime. And I'm sure you got a lot of friends still here, your friends over at TPPF and others. That probably welcome you. I know they had an event the past couple of days. Did you get kind of a care kit from Texas? Are you picking a couple of things up?
Absolutely. In fact, I'm in Texas a lot, probably average a couple times a month through the end of the year. We get to one of the reasons why, which is good, and it's related to what y'all are working on. But to your question, because people say, are y'all crazy? You moved from Texas to the D.C. area? We're not crazy as much as we were praying about the impact we were going to have, or a tiny impact as a family. And so living in Northern Virginia, not D.C., is okay. Yeah. But I'll tell you a story that tells you about the future of the Heritage Foundation. Almost every member of Heritage's senior management was at my house in a rural part of Fairfax County, heavily wooded, where you can actually deer hunt on it. And someone who looks like me will be doing that next weekend. And I smoked a brisket. And all these people came over. I smoked it for 20 hours. All these folks came over. They sit down. They said, Kevin, you know how to smoke a brisket. I said, yeah, I spent a lot of time in Texas. So we brought some Texas to the Heritage Foundation. And on the cultural, social, and political side, Jonathan, more of that needs to happen, because what we're trying to do at Heritage is devolve power from D.C. and put it back in the hands of the American people.
Amen. Amen. Well, and look, we see the climate changing a little bit. We see a difference, a shift at the executive level with the Biden presidency and that administration. But then we see these incredible decisions coming out of the U.S. Supreme Court, which people could sort of connect the dots as a result and part of the legacy, if you will, of the Trump administration, new people on the U.S. Supreme Court. And I want to get into that conversation, but I want to really kind of set the field too at the beginning and make sure everybody is aware of the Heritage Foundation. I know a lot of people know that organization, but I want you just to share a little bit about Heritage Foundation and also what that looks like under your leadership.
Well, thanks for that question, because although Heritage has been around for nearly half a century, not everyone knows about it. And I don't think any of us at Heritage have this institutional hubris where we think people should know about us, in part because we try not to take credit for things. And yet you said in your very kind introduction of me that Heritage was probably the largest conservative public policy organization in the world. That's true. And we don't exist to be the largest. We exist to have the greatest impact to give you power back. And so I've become enamored with saying that the work that the Heritage does, and I'll tell you a little bit of detail in a minute, the work that Heritage does most of all is to be the American people's advocates behind enemy lines. Because you don't have enough. There are a lot of great organizations around this country, and there are some